because I've taught this for a while. The power of forgiveness, because so many people that have had so many horrific things done to them, they're like, no, I can't forgive that person. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about this for a minute. You're thinking that to forgive someone, you're saying, oh, it's okay. It's okay what you did to me. Like that was okay. No, that's not what it's about. Forgiveness is about love. Forgiveness is loving yourself enough to let go of emotions that are actually keeping you from feeling love.
Welcome to Stories of Hope in Hard Times, the show that explores how people endure and even thrive in difficult times, all with God's help. I'm your host, Tamara K. Anderson. Join me on a journey to find inspiring stories of hope and wisdom learned in life's hardest moments. Today's guest is a joy-filled, passionate woman. She is the mother of 4 amazing children who she is raising to be happy and responsible people. She is a speaker, mentor, author, and facilitator of healing. She continues to build her healing and coaching practice, Pure Essence Healing LLC, and she uses her gifts to facilitate powerful healing and awakening on many levels for individuals. She works with people striving to heal from the effects of trauma and abuse, and also those who are trying to create a healthier life path. She also works with parents and families to create greater joy and connection within the family structure. The reason she does this is because she herself is an overcomer of the effects of childhood sexual abuse, molestation, teenage rape, and domestic violence. And so her life mission is to teach love, forgiveness, and acceptance for every human being in whatever state they may be in. She is most proud of her family's living in Africa for 1 year and loving and serving the people there. And she's going to tell us about that a little bit later in the podcast. She is a lover of truth and continually encourages her students and audiences to find the truth within and align their lives with it and become creators of their lives and live their truth. She has let go of being a victim and stands strong in encouraging other women to take their lives back, change their story, and create the life they want by taking 100% responsibility for their lives. And she has learned to do this personally, and she strives to do it daily. So I am pleased to present Aleesha Lee McMurdo, formerly known as Jen Alexander McMurdo. Aleesha, are you ready to share your story of hope?
I'm so ready.
Awesome. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you.
So first, let's just dive into, you recently changed your name. Tell me a little bit about that really quick.
Okay, this is definitely a God thing, so...
Well, you may as well tell it as a God thing then.
Anybody that knows me, they'll be like, yep, that's Aleesha. So about when I was about 23 years ago, I believe, when I was 18, actually, I started having the memories of the sexual abuse. I was in a safe place. I was out of my home. And I started having memories come back to me, visions of what had been done.
Right.
And I had some really beautiful people around me that were supporting me and helping me through that. And one particular was a woman. We'd become really good friends. She had just gotten out of an abusive marriage, actually. But we began to just study and learn and do some healing, to help each other. And we actually had some really spiritual experiences together. We kind of had a feeling of like we had known each other before this life, that God had brought us together to help each other during this time, to help each other heal. And one night we just had this experience where we were studying about faith. And we felt a number of presence in the room of spirits and came to really understand that they were angels. And they were there and they were ministering to us. And I heard them say, we want to give you the name that you had before you came here, so that you have an anchor, something to hold on to know who you really are as you go through this experience in your life. And they said, your name is Aleesha.
Oh, there you go.
And so it hasn't been till this point, maybe one or two people that I have shared that. But the thing is that I have heard that name from that day. So people will say Jen, but I hear in my mind continually Aleesha. And so it's really a beautiful moment right now in my life where I'm at this place that I'm coming into full authenticity, just alignment in every area. And, God just felt him speak to me a few months ago and just be like, no, it's time. You need to share, have people call you by your name. And I was really nervous because that's been my connection, to him and to my divine self. Mm-hmm. And it's been a very personal, experience. And so it made me a little nervous to put that in the hands of other humans, because we're all human and we don't mean to be unkind, or we don't mean to, but to be willing to allow people to use my name.
Yeah.
And let go of that control. But then I realized it was an opportunity for me to really come into a place where there's no more hiding. There's no more duality. There's no more masks. There's just me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the story.
Wow, that is so fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with me.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
So you have quite a story of recovery, I guess we would call it. And with so much abuse and domestic violence and rape in your past, I was wondering if maybe we could touch on how you felt, perhaps being your former self, just so that we can understand how people feel who are coming from those situations, and then maybe evolve into who you are today inside, and maybe the difference in how you feel about yourself and how you feel about others and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you asked the question, because it's a really conscious question. And it allows me to focus on the process, because it's not the events that happen to us in our lives, because we tend to be able to overcome the events,
right,
the experiences. It's the beliefs that we form about ourselves. It's the emotions that it creates inside of us.
Yes.
That stays with us, that seem to be the most difficult things to heal from.
Yes.
And some never do, you know, but that's just their journey, and that's okay. But my desire is to help people heal. So formally, how I lived my life as I see it, it felt like two different lives. Like I would put on a face in public, or when I went to any social event or any religious event, or, and I'm a happy person, but just kind of felt like, I would fall into just putting on this persona of being okay and being loving and, and just being out there, which was a part of who I was. But on the inside, I always felt there was something wrong with me. I felt like I was never good enough. I was anxious so much of the time. I just would feel nervous. And I dealt with depression for 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And, hiding that, but I tried to take my life twice. So being suicidal. So on the inside, I felt desperate. I felt broken. I felt anxious and just always feeling like there was always something wrong. It was just that feeling like a heaviness of life is so hard, and just feeling like there was always something wrong and nothing ever felt good. I don't think I ever really felt. I would have moments of joy, but then it would just feel heavy again. And so I was always looking for for ways to, to feel better. But so much of that time I spent in bed and alone and,
isolated.
Yeah. Yeah. So today, I probably still look the same in somewhat on the outside, just because I am a people person. I do love people. But I feel completely different on the inside. And my really close friends that have watched me and know me, they have said there is so much peace that emanates from you, and love that just naturally, like you come into a room, and my friend said, she's like, there's just peace. Like you have this peace about you.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the greatest differences, is that when I was struggling with all of that, I didn't love myself, because one of the biggest messages that you get from going through those things is you feel unlovable. You feel like there's something wrong. Like I thought there was something really wrong with me, and I felt unlovable and undeserving of love. So I would push love away. I wouldn't receive it, and it created problems in my marriage and things that way, because I wasn't willing to receive love, because deep down inside I had this belief that I just wasn't deserving of it, and that there was something really bad and wrong about me, and I was very, in my talk, in my mind, like formerly who I was very critical of myself, very judgmental. Nothing was ever good enough. I was just always beating myself up and all of these things. And so it's no wonder, this last year or the last 2 years, coming out of domestic violence, where I was literally being beat up, that is where I finally came to an awakening, where I'm like, I have been a victim for so long in my life. I have got to figure out what is going on, because I am not doing this anymore. Yeah. And that was one of the ahas for me, is that realizing I was helping create the situations because I was so unkind to myself. I was so critical. I was so judgmental. I wasn't receiving any love to myself. I was trying to give love to other people, but I wasn't loving myself, and I wasn't receiving any of that. And that's part of the healing and the shift. And now one of the biggest things that has changed in me and who I am right now is that I absolutely love who I am.
That's awesome.
I adore who I am. And I feel love in my heart for me. And that is one of the biggest differences. And I have forgiven myself, and I have forgiven people, but I just hold this space now. I'm very clear on it. And every day I make sure that I am in that space, and that I love myself, and that I am taking care of myself. And that I don't allow any more of those feelings of not being good enough, or being so critical or so judgmental. I've shifted my perspective. I see myself as a child, and that I'm learning. And I know for myself that God loves me, and that has never changed.
Right.
And that no matter what I do or what I don't do or what experiences I have, that love is consistent.
That's awesome.
So that's the change between formerly and then now, where I am now. And when you love yourself, regardless of what has happened, what is going on, what choices you make, that is where the power is. And I had I'll share this, sorry, but I had a really neat experience just a week ago. I was just sitting and pondering, and this voice said in my mind, the fact that you exist, just that you exist, you are loved, you are enough. And I remember, I think I was sitting in a library, and I just sat there, and I'm like, are you serious? And the voice said, you could do nothing more in this life but just be, and the fact that you exist, you are loved. And it hit me to the core, and I was like, oh my word.
That's a powerful message.
It is. So, yeah.
That is awesome. So tell me the process. How did you go from all that negative self-talk to becoming who you are today? I know it probably wasn't overnight. So where did you start? Obviously, there was an aha moment. So walk me through it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the question. That healing probably started about 6 years ago, to be honest with you. So, and it is when a good friend actually taught me about the power of forgiveness. She taught me about emotions and how we hold on to emotions. And when we hold on to negative emotions or emotions that we would call heavy, or negative or dark, like the anger, the hatred, the bitterness, the unkindness, like all of those that just feel heavy when we talk about it.
Yeah.
She taught me about what that does to our bodies, that it literally creates a disconnect between our body and our spirit. And it wreaks havoc in our body. It creates disease because our body and our spirit want to work together. They want to be in harmony with each other. But when we hold on to those heavy emotions and we allow them to stay within us, it creates a disconnect. And we start to really what happens is we start to come away from love is what happens.
Interesting.
And so that was the beginning of me starting to learn. And she taught me the way to let go of those heavy emotions was through forgiveness. And she taught me how to forgive and the power of that. And I started using that tool of forgiveness in my life.
Give me an example of that. Like, what did you say? I choose to forgive, or what did that look like for you?
It is actually. So what I would do is I would wake up in the morning and I could tell, you can just feel when you don't feel good, you know? And so I would acknowledge those emotions and I actually would ask in prayer, can you help me understand like what this emotion is attached to? Like, am I angry at somebody? What is it attached to, Or I would even, sometimes I would just sit really quiet and ask myself, like, what am I angry about? What am I hurting about? And we really have the answers inside of us if we will listen. And so I started listening and I would ask. And when something would come to my mind, then I would say, oh, I forgive myself for holding on to anger, or for being angry at so-and-so, for, being angry at my husband for not listening to me and walking out the door and slamming the door, and I forgive him for being unkind, because the word forgive is letting go. But the reason why it's so powerful is because no one can make you forgive.
That's true. That's true.
Only you can choose to let it go. And that's part of the power in that. And I realized, because I've taught this for a while, the power of forgiveness, because so many people that have had so many horrific things done to them, they're like, no, I can't forgive that person. And I'm like, okay, let's talk about this for a minute. You're thinking that to forgive someone, you're saying, oh, it's okay. It's okay what you did to me. Like that was okay. No, that's not what it's about. Forgiveness is about love. Forgiveness is loving yourself enough to let go of emotions that are actually keeping you from feeling love. It's one of the greatest acts of love for you. And yes, does it extend to other people? Yes, if they're willing to take it, but that's not what forgiveness is for. It's an act of love for yourself, to be able to let go of emotions and things that are keeping you from having love in your life. And so that's the process I started about, 6 years ago, and starting to just dig deep and start to forgive myself and forgive people that had hurt me, and, and forgive my husband that had hurt me, and And that was the healing that started coming. Now, mind you, I had 20 years of counseling that were supposed to help me, get out of this mindset, because when you are abused, you come into a victim mentality, and you feel like things are always being done to you instead of you being able to choose and create your life. And so it feels really disempowering. And that's another, formerly, that was who I was. I thought I have no choice here. Like things are always being done to me. But now I'm like, nope, I'm the creator of my life. I choose my life. I choose my thoughts. I choose my words. I get to choose what I'm doing. So it's a whole shift. But that came from being able to forgive and let go and love myself to be able to let that stuff go. So that was the process. And that's even the process today, just this morning.
Yeah. So basically, you have to really get in touch with how you're feeling inside. You can't lock those emotions away anymore. Let them out, acknowledge what they are, and then pray and ask God to help you forgive yourself and forgive others. For these feelings that you have inside or for the hurts they have inflicted on you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I found that we're the ones that hurt ourselves the most.
Yeah, we
actually.
do. Yeah, I think you're right there.
Yeah.
Wow. That is really amazing. So tell me how this forgiveness and doing this every day for several years now, how did that help you begin to feel love again? Did you have some experiences with God that helped you begin to feel it more fully in your life? Explain more of that connection between actually forgiving and then feeling love.
Yeah, I love that you're asking that. So imagine like a container that's full of rocks. Okay. And then you try to pour water in that container.
Yes.
How much water are you going to be able to really get into that container? Some, but not the full.
Right.
The full container, right? So as you start taking rocks out of that container, then how much more water can fill it?
As much as the container will hold.
Okay, it's the same with our bodies. It's the same with our spiritual, emotional, energetic, physical bodies. They're all connected. So the more we forgive, the more we release the energy and the emotions that are heavy, that keep us feeling low. So mind you, 15 years of depression.
Yeah.
That was suppressed emotion. So when I would let that go, it creates space, just like in that jar we just talked about. It creates space. And I chose to fill that space with gratitude and love. And so as I would let something go, I would literally picture like light coming in and filling those spaces, or I would literally say, now I fill that space with love and light and gratitude. And so that is what started changing but I had to be willing to let go of those things that were blocking that love. And that's really how that started, that process, is being able to let that go and then inviting that love in. And there's lots of room when you can let go of hatred and anger and bitterness. You'll find that it kind of opens you up to there's space there for love to be there. And it comes in, and I always ask God. I mean, He's my right-hand man. I have not traveled this road alone ever. In fact, it's Him that carried me through those times. It was Him that saved me actually when I tried to take my life.
Yeah.
So much I would ask. And even now I'm like, please just fill me with your love. Like, will you just put your love in my heart and fill me with your love, and help me to love people like you love people. And, there's always conversation between me and God through all of this. And that's been a constant for me, because to me, he is love, and I've experienced him as love in my life.
Right.
And so, like I said, like one of the times that I tried to take my life, I was about to drive off a cliff. There was nobody in the car with me, nothing. And I was pleading on the edge of the cliff, like, please help me. And all of a sudden the radio turned on and there was this song, He Hears Me.
Wow.
He hears me in the night when my soul longs to fight, when the morning comes. I mean, it's a Hillary Week song. And there was no one in that car to turn that radio on.
Wow.
And that was like, and I backed my car off from the edge. I was like, okay, I'm listening. So he partners with us, and he is the love. He generates that. But the thing that people don't understand, and I would love for people to begin to understand, is he is in us.
Right.
We are divine beings.
Yeah.
We were born from divinity, which means we were born from love. So who he is, the majesty of his love, is actually within us as well. It's just uncovering and releasing and letting go of all of those pieces that we don't need, that sometimes we're holding on to so tightly because it creates a false sense of security. It's being able to let go of that to get to him inside, and to be able to feel that love.
Yeah.
So
that's powerful. So let me ask you this. If you have a negative thought come into your head now, what do you do?
I'm not always conscious. I'm learning.
Yeah.
And, but I know that when I do, because I can feel it in my body, it shows up as an emotion for me. And sometimes I'll just greet it and say, okay, I hear you. Like that doesn't work for me. Thanks for showing up, and then I just excuse it. Like, I call it a disempowering thought from the past. I'm like, okay, thank you for showing up, but you're a disempowering thought from my past, and I'm just going to excuse you, and I'm just going to bring in light. And what's the truth? So a lot of the time I'll say, thank you for sharing this with me. And I'll think, okay, what's the truth? And so I try to find the opposite.
Right.
And then I replace that. And then sometimes I'm just like, nope, I am love. I am light. I am truth. I am a strong woman. Because usually the thought is always something about my worth.
Right.
Or something about me as a person, or what will so-and-so think? A lot of that. Because I was really raised to be very concerned about how things looked.
Right.
And that happens when you're abused, when there's abuse going on and people don't want to know. So they create this thing of, well, everything has to look perfect.
Right.
So you become overly concerned with how people are, like what they're thinking.
Right.
And that's probably one of the biggest mindsets that I'm really continually having to stay on. And I, even this morning, even coming in here, like I had a thought, well, what will so-and-so think? And I thought, darn it. And for me, I just said, I take back my authority. Like they can think what they want to, has nothing to do with this. I take back my authority. I choose how I want to feel about today. I choose who I'm going to be today.
Yeah.
And every time I take back, I literally do. I say, I take back my power. I take back that authority. I get to choose. And it's really powerful when you realize that no matter what is being presented to you in your mind, that you still get to choose what you're going to focus on, and you still get to choose what you're going to act on. Right. So I acknowledge it, and then I do a few things. I just get with truth, whatever truth I can pull out, I speak it and I pull it out and breathe through it. And then I'm like, okay, next.
That is a really good way to approach that. And I think that's something we all deal with, the negative self-talk. And I love that you just gave us the solution to fix it. Acknowledge that you had that thought and say, no, I have worth, I am loved, I have power, I can choose. And this is not the thought I want to choose.
Yeah, no. And I mean, I do a lot of affirmations. I mean, I'll tell you, I am on like my meditation. I meditate in the morning. I meditate in the afternoon. I meditate in the evening. Like I am on I just want to stay connected to my soul. And I know that my brain needs to be helped in that area.
Yeah. Well, we're all still healing, right? All of us have issues. And so I think it's smart of you to realize I need this. I need to reaffirm to myself morning, noon, and night who I really am.
Yep.
I'm a daughter of God. I have worth. I have power.
Yep.
I can choose my own life. And it just those types of statements, whether you're male or female, obviously if you're male, we'll say, I am a son of God. But, those types of statements are empowering.
They really are, because the negativity are lies. And they might be part truths, and they may feel like truth because they resonate from something of the past or something. But that's the thing about truth, is when you speak truth, it really just cuts through those lies. And so that's what I have found, and to speak that.
Speak your truth.
It also brings you into a place of being conscious and present. And something that I've learned is the presence of God, or the presence of love, is in the moment. When you can be very present and be aware, then you feel that love, because it really is all around us. And being able to use those phrases of truth helps bring us back to that present moment. And there's just so much power in that as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. So, obviously you meditate every day. What other things do you do to connect yourself with God, to keep that love consistently flowing and filling those gaps inside of you?
There's a few things. Nature is a big piece of that for me. And it's because I've come to understand that the essence of who He is in every living thing. And so when we can connect with water, with nature, we actually connect to a piece of Him, and we connect to a piece of our soul. And so that is a big way for me right now that helps me to stay connected and to stay peaceful. And peace is a really important part of that, of being able to move through this life. Also, I just love people. So for me, like having conversation with people, serving in the ways that I love to serve, that really for me brings that love, and it flows through me. Speaking, like this, writing, expressing the things that are so deep inside of me and my soul, that actually keeps me in love quite often, and I can feel that flow, because that is the way that I express love, is by teaching and speaking and sharing, and helping people maybe see something in themselves that they aren't seeing. That's one of the biggest ways that I keep love in my life, is by extending love, out. Not holding myself in, but really just getting out there and connecting with people and sharing and just loving them. And like I had an experience, I've been in LA, and there was a homeless woman. I'd been asking God, I really want to just start to connect with more people. And here's this beautiful homeless woman at this gas station. And I'm like, I want to go and talk to her, and just had this beautiful conversation with her about God and about where she was in her life. And it was beautiful. And just put my arm around her, and I'm just like, I love you. You're amazing. Like, you are so strong, because she's been through so much, and now she's living on the street. And, and she just looked at me, and she just was like, I love you. She's like, you are the real deal. And so that's a way that I just connecting with people, that's a way that I keep that love flowing too, because it gets me outside of myself. It gets me out of my head, and into my heart.
Yeah.
So,
That's interesting. I've also found that when I have the chance to serve and help others, I think God helps us find more of ourselves when we serve and love and give. And I don't know exactly how that process works 100%, but I think there's a scripture about it, but it says something like, whosoever shall lose his life will gain
for
it,
my sake will gain it.
And so I think there's some truth there. And you find yourself as you love and serve others.
You do. And I think it also, I want to speak to this because for the longest, I've served others all my life. It is just the soul and essence of who I am.
Right.
And I know that. But it's different this time because I've learned to love myself. And that's something that has been a really big shift. Because they're serving because you feel like, okay, well, I'll do this and maybe I'll get a blessing, or this is what I'm supposed to do. And then there's serving that comes from the heart where you're like, I want to help that person. I want to talk to that person because you have that love inside of you. And so I think learning to love yourself and really appreciate who you are as a being, as a person. And you asked me, like, how do you bring that love in? I actually spend a lot of time with myself. I allow myself to ponder and write, and to listen to my soul, what my soul is saying to me. And I forgive myself, and I see myself like a child in those moments when that opportunity to beat myself up, or to be critical, really stepping into being so kind and so compassionate to myself and so loving and so forgiving, that really generates a great amount of love, that energy of love inside of me. And then it is from there, then I go and serve. And then it's just like an overflowing, like a cup overflowing.
Yeah, because God is dumping the love into you and it just flows out from you. Yeah, that's an interesting way of looking at it. Whereas before, even though God was trying to dump the love into you, it just wouldn't fit.
Yeah, it literally, like we talked about, there were so many rocks in there, plus when you have the belief in so many victims, we create this belief that because these horrible things were done to us, or, we've been in situations where we've been hurt so badly that we literally begin to believe that we don't deserve love. And it's such a familiar feeling of not living in love that sometimes you are comfortable living in the pain more than, I've had to teach myself to be comfortable with love. Still, even this morning, and yesterday was my birthday, and I was opening my hands up and being like, okay, what do you have for me today? Like, I receive, like, I'm willing to receive, and I have to be willing to open up and say, I receive, I'm willing to receive, because that has been one of the most difficult things, because you really, when you believe for such a long time that you've experienced such a lack of love, and you believe that you're not deserving and that these things have happened to you because maybe of something that you did. And these are all common thoughts and beliefs that come from trauma and abuse. You have to be willing to let that go. And that's some of the hardest, And so forgiveness allows you to remove those rocks. Those are those rocks, but you still have to be willing to say, okay, I receive. And sometimes it's uncomfortable because you've been in that place of pain and pushing away, for so long. So it's interesting because those who understand the atonement of Jesus Christ, I find it interesting because I've seen this so much that even though they say, yeah, I believe in Jesus Christ, or I believe what he did, I believe in his atonement, but yeah, they're constantly beating, and I was one of those, like, beating myself up, not accepting love. He did what he did so that we could take those things and lay it at his feet so that we could receive love. Not so that we could take a stick and continually beat ourselves up.
Right.
And he taught me this. His Spirit taught me this. It's like, there's no need. The price has already been paid.
Yeah. You don't have to beat yourself up
It
anymore.
was already paid. You don't deserve to be punished. You don't need to learn that way. You know, I am love. I am light. You know, and he's already, so literally I would see myself at times just taking, and I do it now. Okay, Lord, here's my anger. Here's my frustration. You know, here's my fear. Like, I'm surrendering this to you. You already paid the price. I realize I don't even have to go through this process. I don't have to take myself down this road. That I'm worthy of love right now because of what you did, because of who I am, that I literally can just say, oh, no, thank you. Here you go.
I'm done with this.
Yeah. And just let that love come in. But sometimes we just think it has to be so difficult.
Yeah. We feel like we have to atone for our own
we do
failings.
Yeah. When we don't, it's already
done.
All those emotions and everything that was already paid for. We just need to be willing to surrender them.
Yes.
To let go of them, to forgive ourselves, to surrender them to him and allow that love to come through.
Oh, that's so perfect. Wow. Thank you, Aleesha. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, will you tell us about Africa?
I would love to.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
How many of you out there feel like your life is chaotic, crazy, and completely awful compared to the norm? What if I were to tell you that you are normal for you? I am so excited to announce that my book, Normal for Me by Tamara K. Anderson, is now available for purchase on Amazon. This book took me 10 years to write, and I share 20 years worth of lessons learned in my life detours, including being in a car accident and having 2 of my children diagnosed on the autism spectrum. In this book, I share the secrets of how I made it from despair to peace with God's help. I also include a bonus diagnosis survival guide at the very end of my Normal for Me book. The Diagnosis Survival Guide includes 12 tips to survive and thrive in tough times. Wouldn't you like to know what those are? So what are you waiting for? Grab your copy of Normal for Me today on Amazon.
And we're back. Today I'm interviewing Aleesha Lee McMurdo, and she's going to tell us about going to Africa and the impact that had on her and her ability to teach others this powerful lesson of love and forgiveness. So take us to Africa, Aleesha.
Okay. You know, when you ask me a question, I don't just give a short answer.
That's okay.
That's why you had me on a podcast.
That's exactly why you're here. I don't want a short answer. I want you to tell me the story.
Okay. So I think it was May of 2016. I went on my first expedition to Kenya with 100 humanitarians, Heidi Totten. I knew getting ready for that trip that it was something big, that it was something big for me. Because there was a lot of opposition. Humanitarian work was something that was huge for me. We had just gone, my former husband and I had actually just gone to Nicaragua January of that year to do humanitarian work. And anyways, before we had married, we talked about doing that with our family because we both had that heart. And so when I got ready to go to Kenya, there were so many miracles, and I just felt like the people that we were going to, that there was something there for me to do. And Heidi felt that too. She's like, I feel like this one area, she's like, we've never gone to it before. It was called Bomet. She's like, but I really feel like we're meant to go there. And she's like, Jen, I just feel like this is yours. Like, this is your area. Like, there's something there. And I said, I have felt the same thing. And that was before we even. So we go on this expedition. Sure enough, you know, we're there. We're walking down these dirt roads, visiting these people in their mud huts, and seeing the state of some of these families. And assessing their needs. And 100 Humanitarians empowers. So we see what they're already doing in their community, and then we say, what can we do to support you?
Right.
So we teach them how to fish. So we build garden boxes. We do water storage systems. We have a sewing center there now, and a literacy center. So all these things that create skills,
Right.
so that they can feed their family and so that they can create income for their family.
Wonderful.
And so it's beautiful. But this was one of the first trips we were assessing the needs,
Right.
of what was happening, and had some really touching experiences. They have nothing. They really have nothing. And they would greet us with song and dancing, and they would, give us tea. That's what they drink. And some of them wouldn't even have sugar. So they would run to their neighbors to get sugar so they could make something. And just these beautiful people, And I remember going that first trip, and I remember my room. It's almost overwhelming, the feelings that you have when you step into seeing that, that much poverty, and hearing stories, seeing children that have been left because their parents, have AIDS or drinking problems, or, we saw a lot of that. And it was like, okay, what are they missing? God, what is it that they're missing, And the Spirit was like, truth. They need truth. They have a little bit, but they need truth, but they also need these other things. But I was like, okay. And I just knew I would be going back. That was a huge eye opener, a huge experience. It's a coming to yourself almost. And so that was May of 2016. Well, January of 2017, I started having these visions of my children playing with Kenyan children on the ground at the age that they were. And my youngest was 5 at that time. And I was like, okay, I know where this is coming from. But I just was like, okay. And it just kept coming. And finally, I was just like, okay, God, are you asking, what are you asking? Are you asking us to go to Kenya? Is this what I'm seeing? And it's like, yes. And it's like, okay. And I'm thinking, a little bit. And it just kept coming stronger. And I was like, okay, well, when? And the thought was May. That was like, and here we are at the end of January. So I was like, okay. And my former husband and I had just gotten back after our second separation. We were working on our marriage. We were working on, we were living in a 2-bedroom apartment with our 4 kids. And I'm like, okay, if this is your will, then you got to tell Forrest. So yeah, I remember one morning I rolled over and the Spirit was like, talk to him now. Okay. Anyways, he was like, okay. So we, everything came together. We sold everything. We lived in a trailer for 4 months in the middle of winter on our friend's property in Wellsville. And, to save money for plane tickets. And then we went, we took our 4 kids. So, to Kenya. So my oldest was just about 12, and then 11 and 7 and 5.
Wow.
So.
And tell us about the experience you had in Kenya there.
It's a beautiful thing. But there's also opposition that comes. When you have your greatest joy, you also can have your greatest challenge. And that just seems to be sometimes,
It's like a pendulum.
Yeah.
It can swing this high one way, but it also swings that high the other way.
Right. But we had beautiful experiences because we had the opportunity to love people and to serve people and to bring down walls and barriers, because in the area that we were in, we were the only white people, and we were to some of those children and to some of the people there, we were the first white people that they'd seen.
Wow.
And so we were kind of at a celebrity status, it felt like. But also there was an expectation that white people bring prosperity and all of these things. And so we were also, we were bombarded with requests, to help. So we had to be very clear and just say, we're here. I remember standing in a church like the second week in the community that we were living in. We didn't live in a compound. We lived in the community in a host's home. And so we had neighbors on all sides, and we were right there in a middle class, almost poverty community. And I just remember standing up in church and just saying, we're here to love you. And we're here to be loved by you. And we're here to teach you some things if you want to learn, and we're here to learn from you. And so we kind of established that. And with each connection that we made, and the more vulnerable we became with sharing our own stories, the more the walls came down, and we just became friends, with people. And even though we were there to do the humanitarian work, those walls still came down. We were brothers and sisters to each other. And I think that was one of the most beautiful experiences. We did a little bit of work in the village that we were in, but we normally would go about an hour outside of that village in Beaumet, where there was a great amount of poverty, where the people lived in one room, mud huts, and they would have quite a few children and a lot of single moms, because they do practice early childhood marriage there. That's changing. But so you would find a lot of young mothers that wouldn't have a way to provide for their children. And then you have girls as well, like the sanitary napkin is a real issue there. So my daughter and I actually traveled quite a bit, probably once a week, to different schools to with the women there to educate on the sanitary napkins and give them reusable sanitary napkin kits.
Awesome.
And those were some really beautiful experiences, just really being able to connect with the girls and being able to connect with the women, And I taught quite a few classes, actually. I actually taught about forgiveness in the little sewing center that we had there. I was doing some teaching, and that day it was like, teach about forgiveness. And so I shared my story, some of my story, because they don't talk about the challenges there. They know, because there is a lot of, like, there's female circumcision, there's early childhood marriage, like you're dealing with all these issues, know. And so I was very open with them and shared with them some things and talked to them about forgiveness. And this one woman, in her broken English, kept asking me questions, like question after question about, well, what if somebody does this? Well, what if somebody does that? And I'm like, and I'm thinking in my heart and my mind, you have been so hurt. And come to find out, she was right in the middle. Her husband had just had an affair, and she was ready to leave. And so we became really good friends and began to talk, and she was able to forgive and work through and come back together with her husband, And so just these beautiful experiences of being able to connect with people and watching my children just learn to be in a different culture and play with children that didn't even have the same language, but they would play and they would love one another. And, my best friends are over there, so we just had an experience to experience God's love in such a profound way, to serve those around us and to be loved by them, and to have an opportunity to see how our service meant so much and improved quality of life,
absolutely
for them. So, and I think that experience for me, one of the things that was really profound for me, I've come to a place of great gratitude for the experiences in my life.
Even the hard ones.
Especially the hard ones. I feel emotional about it. just because my dad has said to me before, he said, when is it going to end for you? Like you're on, like there's constantly, and I said, Dad, I signed up for this. Like I'm on an uphill trek, you know, because I want to learn and I want to grow. But I wouldn't trade anything because of the experiences, but the learning and the growth and the closeness to God that this has allowed me to have in my life. And one of those pinnacle moments, and the compassion and the ability to be empathetic and to really help people now, help them through their own healing. Like there's no way I would be able to do that work had I not gone through the things that I had gone through and learning the things that I am. But the pinnacle of that came for me in Kenya when we went to a rescue center. There were 74 girls there that had left their homes. They didn't want to be married off. They didn't want to go through the female circumcision ceremony. They wanted to finish their education. They wanted to stay in their education. I had the opportunity, Aleesha and I had the opportunity to go and to speak with them. And I just poured my heart, even though there was a language barrier, there was an interpreter, I just poured my heart out and felt to share some of these experiences, you know, and said, but here I am now before you. Do I look sad? Do I look broken down? You know, and they're like, no, like you're happy, you are helping people. And I just said, and you can too. And every single wall that could have came just crumbling down. And I had these young girls just crying and just saying, we want to share our story with you. And that's not something that's common. You don't share your story. Those things are quiet. And so I literally spent a day in a room with one girl after the other, just coming in and sharing their stories of what they've been through. These girls as young as 11 years old that have broken away from their families and the things that they've been through. And some of them had been raped and just all of these. And do you know what an honor that was for me to sit and have these young girls be willing and the freedom for them to be able to speak their truth and to have someone look in their eyes and be like, you're so brave. I hear you. I see you. I love you. Like you've got this, like you can do this. That was probably one of the height for me where I was like, I would go through it all again to be able to have this experience, to sit with these girls and to be able to share with them and to give them that kind of love, that much encouragement, you know, and the power came from them going, you understand, you know? So
they knew that you had been in a similar thing, and it showed that you could love them purely and that they could see that experience either as being a victim the rest of their lives, or they can see it as, I'm going to someday be like her. I'm going to teach others that you don't have to let the past define you. That you can be filled with love and you can teach others to forgive and to love and then to share that love, God's love, right?
Exactly. And to be able to say, you get to choose.
You get to choose.
Like you get to choose your path. You get to choose who you're going to be. You get to choose what you're going to do. Like nothing's been defined for you. You know, to be able to share that message that just because this has happened doesn't mean it defines you. Doesn't mean that you're just going to continue. Like you get to choose. You get to create, you know. And I think that's the most powerful message. And that's the most powerful thing really that has helped me. You know, back at the beginning of this, you asked like, who are you then? And now who are you now? And that's one of the most powerful principles that has come to me, that is like, nothing defines me. I get to choose. And everything that I've been through that has nothing to do with the worth of my soul. The worth of my soul stays the same always. And I just get to choose what I'm going to do with these experiences. What am I going to choose now? What am I going to create now? And it's extremely powerful when you realize you get to choose.
No, that's powerful. Oh, this is so awesome. So tell me, along this road, have you found some favorite scriptures that have become meaningful to you?
Yeah, of course. And it's Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengtheneth me.
We are soul sisters. That's my mantra too.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was given to me. I remember I was in Provo going to school, sitting on the banks, reading my scriptures. And that was like, it just hit me. And
That's your verse.
And that has been through everything, because by myself, not so much.
Yeah. Amen.
But with his love and his encouragement and understanding how much he loves me, there's nothing, honestly, that's how I've been able to get through and be able to do the things. It's because of his love.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and his grace. Yeah.
Perfect. Oh, I love that. What books have you read that have made a difference in your life?
I love to read, so it's so hard when you're like, I'm like,
can I give you 25?
I'm going to put it down to 2. So, Feelings Buried Alive Never Die by Carol Truman. Mm-hmm. That has been a foundational book for me, and I still carry it with me. It's what helped me to start to understand about the emotional and the energetic body and all of that. Mm-hmm. And I use so much of that to help heal myself.
Right.
But also to help others. And then The Peace Giver, and I can't remember the author of that.
I think it's James Farrell, because I've read that one before and it's fantastic.
It is, and it is about forgiveness.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And is there one more that you wanted to share?
It's not a book, but it's music.
Oh, hey, we love music.
Oh my gosh.
Share music.
Music speaks to my soul. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the ways that God talks to me. Sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and there will be a phrase from a song in my head.
Love it.
And I'll be like, okay, thank you. I really appreciate that clue. Or even, of encouragement, or just like, but I love Lauren Daigle. Mm-hmm. Her songs just speak to my soul. Mm-hmm. And so her album, Look Up Child, I think it's her most recent, I've found that it really, for me, it reflects almost the thoughts of my own soul. It's just really drawn my heart out to the Lord even more, the way that she puts words together. So
that's really cool.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I will be sure to reference your favorite scripture and your favorite books and Lauren's music in the show notes so people can find it easily.
Awesome.
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow. Well, this has been so wonderful. How do people find you and connect with you? And I understand you have an offer you wanted to share with us. So why don't you fill us in on all of that?
Okay. You can find me on Facebook, although I will tell you I'm not on it very often. Messenger, yes, but Aleesha Lee, A Beautiful Soul is my Facebook page. I'll be more active, but you can also email me at Aleesha Speaks, Aleesha Speaks, at Gmail. I do have an offer. I have a 5-module course on the power of forgiveness.
Ooh, fantastic. Tell us about this course and where we can find it.
So it's beautiful. It's like there's a half-hour video a week. Mm-hmm. There's 5 principles. So it teaches you how to identify your emotions, the power of forgiveness, how to forgive, the actual steps that we use, and then also how to use your thoughts and words and actions to create a different life. So there's a workbook with it. So you can if you go on to my website, www.aleeshaspeaks.com. You'll find it. It'll be under the courses, and you can just click on there, and it will take your information just because I love to connect with people. But then you can go right into the course.
And it's totally free.
So it is. Yep.
Oh, fantastic.
Absolutely.
Well, this is a great opportunity because I know that as I've listened to you share about the power of forgiveness, sometimes we can't dive into all the details of how to forgive and how to find your truths and speak who you are. And so this is a fantastic way for people that have connected with your story to be able to keep moving forward and learn to truly forgive and feel love.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a huge tool. So
wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Aleesha, for offering that free to our listeners. And also, thank you for sharing your story of hope. This has just been so beautiful and powerful, and I can tell that your message will resonate and change the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for listening to today's show. I know that there are many of you out there that are going through a hard time, and I hope you found things that have been useful today as you listen to the podcast. If you would like to access the show notes from today's podcast, visit my website. It is storiesofhopepodcast.com. That is where you'll find favorite quotes from today's episode and shareable memes. And those are fun because you can share them with your friends on social media. You will also find the links mentioned throughout today's episode, so you don't have to remember what those were. And also all the tips that were shared. Sometimes tips are shared so much throughout an episode you forget. What were those great things? So go to the show notes, storiesofhopepodcast.com, to look up these fantastic resources. You know, if someone kept coming to mind during today's episode, perhaps that means that you should share this with them. Maybe there was a story shared or a tip that they really, really need to hear. So go ahead and share this episode with them. May God bless you, especially if you are struggling, with hope to carry on and with the strength to keep going when things get tough. Remember to walk with Christ, and He will help bear that burden. Above all else, remember, God loves you.